going to have a go at blocking the work I've done so far on my Sunray shawl. One, to check gauge and just check that I'm happy, I'm close to the pattern recommendation, so I'm getting the sort of fabric that I would expect. But also because I'm interested to see what happens if I treat each side differently when I block it, as to how much I stretch it out. So the first thing I'm going to do is check I've got everything I need. I've got an old towel, it's one of my mum's old beach towels, and I've got some KAL wool wash. I really like the KAL because you don't have to rinse it and I'm lazy, but also that eliminates some of the chance of felting your work. So I'm going to measure my gauge before blocking. The reason I'm going to do that is really so I know what's going to happen as I'm knitting. I can tell how it's going to change, so I can make judgments based on that. But also I'm definitely planning on using this yarn again. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's the Skadi by Hey Mama Wolf. And so it's just going to be good knowledge for me to know whether it grows much, and then that's going to inform my future choices for my projects. Right, okay, so I'm going to measure the width first, going across to the stitch gauge, sorry. So I've got 1, 2, 15, 16. I make that about 16. So I said 16 stitches, didn't I? Now we want to know how many rows. So when you're measuring garter stitch, each kind of ridge is actually 2 rows. It's where those stitches interlock as you go knit on one side and then knit back the other. So we've got 44. So I've got 44 rows. So I've got 16 stitches by 44 rows. Usually I would write that down, but I've recorded it on a video. So I'm just going to go over to the kitchen now. You can't come with me for that, and just soak it. So all I'm going to do is just fill the sink with sort of just tepid water and a little bit of the KAL, and just push this under the water and leave it to soak for about 15 minutes or so. And then when I take it out, I'm just going to carefully lift it. I saw the other day someone put it in a colander. I thought, what a good idea. So they actually put it in the colander and then put it under the water. And then they use the colander to like lift it out, so you're not kind of getting the dragging weight of the wet. Anyway, I just get my hands underneath, lift it out and squeeze the water out as much as I can. Don't wring your work because that will spoil it and felt it. What you're trying to do is avoid too much friction, because that's what encourages wet wool to felt. And of course, when we're spit splicing, we use that. Okay, so I will be back when I've done that, and I will show you what I'm going to do to each half. When I said I had everything I needed at the start, that was a fib, because A, I didn't have my cup of tea, and B, I didn't have blocking wires ready and T-pins. Now, the reality is I'm probably actually not going to use the blocking wires now, because I know I said I was going to soak it on the cable of my knitting needles, but actually I knitted more than I meant to before doing the swatch. So I've put it onto a clover stitch holder there, onto the large one. And so I know then I can stretch it out without losing any stitches. Right, okay, so I've just brought this back from the kitchen. I should point out I didn't put in the ball into the sink. I just put the work in. And so what I would do, if I was doing this all nearer the sink, would be to get my towel, squeeze it out, as I said, and then I'll just take that out so I can lay it out nicely. Just lay my work out on a towel, and then I would just maybe fold that there, or you can do it just nearer the edge, and then roll up the towel. Roll. Goodness me, many holidays on Weymouth Beach in the 80s this towel has seen. Right, okay, so I've rolled it up in my towel. Usually I would now jump on it, or I'm getting old, so I would carefully balance on it with my feet, but I'm not going to stand on the table. So I'm just going to lean, and I'm basically just squeezing out as much moisture as I possibly can. I have more weight if I stand on things than if I lean on things, so that would squeeze out even more. Table will probably collapse. Right, that'll do, that'll do. Okay, so then when I unroll, there we go, take that out, put the towel over there. Okay, so the recommended gauge for this pattern, I'll do it on the right side. The recommended gauge is 20 stitches, so that's 2 repeats of the pattern by 28 rows. So if I pull it that way, if I stretch it that way, that will stretch out these rows, and that also pulls in the repeat. So I just want to bear that in mind. So I think what I'm going to do is block one side to the measurements. That would make sense, wouldn't it? And then just leave the other side to do its own thing. So I've got that. I'm going to just move those out of the way. And as I said, I'm going to use the clover stitch holder as I would the blocking wire. So usually if you had a blocking wire, and I will do actually when I finish this shawl, you would weave it sort of in and out as you wanted every couple of stitches, or you can just lay it across and sort of pin in line, whatever works for you. But I like to actually feed it into my work, and then you can use the pins, and the blocking wire just keeps things straight. These ones are good because they come curled up, but they remember their shape. So yeah, is that the right way of saying it? So they'll just assume whatever shape, and then you can just put them back in the tin afterwards, but you can pin them out straight. And it comes with these T-pins as well, so that's good. Right, okay, so let's see if I can get 2 repeats across. So that would be 1. Oh yeah, I'm way out. So when I pull it out that way, that would make sense then. I had so many rows when I measured the row gauge before blocking. I was a bit like, what? But actually, when you pull it out that way, that's going to cinch in. So that would be about there. And how many rows does that give me then? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 20. 2, 4, 6, 8, 30. Oh, pretty close, pretty close. Right, okay. Let's get into these T-pins. My central point. Make sure that's sorted in line. Right, I mean, that is not perfect. However, it's going to give me a good idea. So I just want to check I've got to pretty much come in a little bit more even. There we go. So yeah, it's not as aggressive as I thought it was going to be when I started blocking. Yep, that's about right. How many rows does that give me? So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 20, 2, 4, 6. Wow, okay. This is pretty much spot on gauge. So I'm just going to leave that to dry now. And yeah, we'll just compare the fabrics. As I said, because we stretched this, it might affect how obvious that concertina leporello stitch pattern is. So it'll be interesting to see if that's then more obvious on the bit where I've just left it to dry flat, and which I prefer, and then I can choose to do that at the end of my shawl. Or if I'm really disappointed with my gauge, I can pull out all of my work and do it on a larger needle. I have to admit that scenario is quite unlikely at this point. I did keep missing, I was just enjoying it so much. So anyway, if I'd done it earlier, then I might consider that, but actually I think it's going to be fine, and I'm going to have my cup of tea.